Was the worst year for a lot of us for our mental as well as physical health. So joining us this morning is best-selling author, coach Lisa Goldenthal.
Hello and welcome. I'm Lisa G, your host. You're at the top of your game, yet the game is changing faster than ever. Strategies that got you here aren't the ones that'll keep you here. The pressure is relentless, and the fear of obsolescence looms large. That's why I'm here. Welcome to the new podcast series, Disruptive: How to Be Gritty and Unlock Performance in Business, Mindset, Wellness, and Success to help you master disruption.
Thanks for coming, and I'll see you soon.
I'm so excited today. We have a productivity expert, co-founder of Lifehack Method, and he's a head coach, teaching clients a hard-hitting efficiency techniques and proven accountability strategies have helped clients generate millions in revenue while saving thousands of hours in the past 7 years. He's helped more than 50,000 professionals, executives from Facebook, Google, Uber, and PepsiCo who want to prevent burnout and create more freedom in their lives. And he's previously worked on Wall Street, where he figured out how to whittle down his 80-hour work week into 2 hours a week. This is why I am so excited to welcome to Whole CEO with Lisa G, Demir Bentley. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
I am thrilled to have you. We all need a productivity, especially me.
Well, listen, I like to say I'm not just the, president of the Hair Club for Men. I'm also a member. I started this whole journey of being a productivity coach is ironic because I really started as a very highly unproductive person. And I think it imbues me with a sense of empathy. I used to work, you mentioned that I worked on Wall Street. I was working 80 hours a week, got sick. My doctors told me, hey, if you don't stop, you're going to die. And so I had a really interesting journey into productivity as an unproductive person, sort of almost becoming a convert to getting productive. I mean, I really am like whatever productivity malady you can think of, I had it, avoidance of technology, reading too many books, putting too many ideas in my brain, but not executing enough, you name it, I've got it. But what's interesting though, is it really fills me with the sense of like, wow, if I can do it as such a deeply flawed human being and do it at such a level that I really become an expert in it, it really makes me realize that anybody can do this. It really is a learned skill, productivity.
Right. Especially for myself, I'm coming from a place where I've noticed as an entrepreneur that I develop ADD and get focus problems. And that's why I was really excited when I saw your bio come across my email. I'm like, this is what we all need. So I want to talk about planning your week, not your day, is the secret to getting more done. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, so one of the things that's interesting to foreground here is that one of the tacks that we took in our productivity coaching was that there wasn't a lack of more ideas. I mean, when you really think about it, in the last 20 years, there's been more great books, and I'm talking about really good ideas. The problem with too many good ideas is it sort of creates another problem, which is, where do I start? How do I integrate all these great ideas? And I often see this with my clients where they come in and they've read every productivity book and they say, I'm more confused than ever. I'm more overwhelmed than ever. How do I put it together? So when we started Lifehack Method, we started with the idea of being a clinician, not a researcher. Meaning we're not here to put more ideas in this space. We're really here to help our clients make sense of everything they've already learned, right? And really create a filter so that they can start taking incredible action and take all that information in their brain and start putting it to work and seeing real results. And so I say that to foreground the idea that we really didn't want to write a book ourselves. That's really not why we're here. And yet, after coaching for 10 years, 50,000 people in the front lines of their productivity, one thing kept emerging like a red flashing light, which was that people aren't planning their weeks. It's,
Right.
in fact, we did a survey. You'll love this. We did a survey of 5,000 professionals who manage between 5 and 50 people, right? So successful people. We asked them the qualities, the top 5 qualities they needed to win their week, or the top 5 productivity tactics they need to win their week. The number one by far, heads and shoulders, was 94% of people said you need to plan your week to win your week.
Yeah.
Okay. Pretty obvious, right? I mean, probably somebody out there is listening and saying, well, duh. I mean, that's obvious. But then we followed up with those 5,000 people and we said, okay, if planning your week is so crucial, have you done it for the last 4 weeks? And what we were doing with that follow-up question was trying to suss out, okay, who here has a consistent planning practice? Lisa, I don't know if you want to take a guess. What percentage of those 5,000 people do you think had a consistent planning process going?
Well, you're scaring me a little bit because I know that this is such an issue and we want to hack productivity, but I'm just going to just guess 25%.
So 6% said that they had been consistently planning the last 4 weeks.
Whoa.
And when I then followed up and said and defined what adequate planning looked like, it dropped to less than 1%. Meaning people looked at my standard for planning and said, "Oh, you mean that? Well, no. Then no, I haven't been planning," right? And so what's interesting here is there's this huge gap between something that everybody would say, of course, you need to be planning, and none of us are doing it, right? And so the first question that we wanted to tackle in our coaching was why. And once we figured out the why, and once we figured out how to show people how to stop avoiding planning, how to lean into it, we showed them a great process for doing it. That's when we finally looked around and said, you know, there really isn't a book on this planning. How do you plan your week to win your week? So that's what's coming in. If you mind me making a shameless plug, July the 12th, we are publishing our book, Winning the Week, How to Plan a Successful Week in Less Than 30 Minutes. And we really felt like if we're going to write a book, we have to write a book that nobody else has written on a topic that's so necessary. And so that's what we're sort of here to do right now. And not just here on this podcast, but in the world right now, we're sort of getting out there and banging the pots and being like, hey, gang, I know you want to get into those advanced productivity topics and nerd out on those really geeky advanced stuff, but really, are you doing the basics? And there's nothing more basic than planning your week.
I love that. I would also like to jump in a little bit to mindsets, because obviously I'm buying your book. I want to have everything down into like 4 hours or whatever hour short I can get my week down to, instead of like carrying the computer into the bed and all sorts of other pandemic habits that I've had to try to get rid of. So can we just address now the 3 mindsets that you want to avoid to boost your productivity?
Yeah. And these are mindsets, frankly, that really also keep you from either not planning or not planning effectively, right? So the first would be magical thinking. And let's just be honest, we're all guilty of magical thinking. And let's give it voice. Magical thinking is that voice that says, I've got this huge list of things to do. I've never done this much in a week. But maybe somehow the heavens are going to part and I'm going to pull a miracle out and get all of this stuff done, right? So that's magical thinking, this idea that maybe even against all odds, against reality, against all experience, maybe I'll be able to do more than I can really do. The problem with magical thinking is it plants the seeds of defeat. It plants the seeds of disaster, right?
Yeah,
because
let yourself down, right?
Well, I mean, on one hand, you overplan, meaning when we're thinking magically, we put too much on our to-do list, more than could ever humanly be possible. And then, like you said, come Friday, we are setting ourselves up for that big fall where we've said, maybe I can do it. No, I didn't do it. I'm such a loser. I stink, right? We start getting on top of ourselves when really, if we'd been courageous enough to look at our world as it really was, we would have been able to say Monday morning, this is not all going to happen. The other thing about magical thinking, I could go on, I'll just give you the top 3, but there's 100 things that are wrong. Here's another thing about magical thinking. It gets us making promises that we can't keep. We're writing checks that we can't cover, right? And so this is when we tell somebody, yeah, I can do that thing for you. And then we feel terrible and have to apologize 6 times. And we take the hit to our credibility when we can't actually deliver that thing. Or we're delivering the things that we've overpromised, but it's our family and our health and our personal life that suffers invariably. So that's the problem with magical thinking. Wishful thinking is it really breeds like moths in a pantry. I always say, like, wishful thoughts, if you see one, you're about to see a million, because once we get into that mode of wishful thinking, it sort of takes over our whole reality and prevents us from seeing the world as it actually is. And let's be honest, life is tough, man. Like, it's tough being an adult. It's tough being an entrepreneur. It's tough being a manager. And so it's no wonder that we want to fall into magical thinking, because it feels like a little bit more velvety, a little bit more forgiving than the harsh light of reality. So I also want to hasten to add, I get it. I understand why we fall into magical thinking, but the problem is that it creates more problems than it solves.
So less more, like, should we just set out to have less things on our calendar and then feel good that, wow, we actually did it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something about taking radical ownership of your reality. We say planning. If you zoomed away from the planning process, what you're really doing is almost like the scientific method helps us see the world without fear or bias, or when you're conducting science but you don't have the scientific method, what's happening is you're distorting your distorted reality prevents you from actually making breakthroughs. And similarly, when you don't have a process to keep you firmly rooted in reality with your planning process, your planning goes off track because you're not looking at reality as it actually is. It's distorted through fear and bias and anxiety and wishful thinking. And so the life hack method that we've come out with is really almost like the scientific method in the sense that it's a simple, easy way to keep yourself rooted in reality so that you can actually see your life moving forward. And ironically, and this is the funny thing, when you have the courage to look at reality as it is, you immediately see improvements in your reality. That's the funny thing.
I love that you address having like ownership of what reality really is. Like, this is how many 24 hours in my day I have, and these are my other obligations. And then you don't want perfectionism. Isn't that another one that you want to avoid?
Yeah, I mean, perfectionism.
Recovering perfectionist.
Well, I'll make a distinction. A lot of people think they're perfectionists, but they're not. If you have trouble starting something, but no trouble finishing something, you've got a fear of starting, right? Wow. That's your fear, is your fear of starting. So if you have a lot of resistance to starting something, but no problem finishing, you're not a perfectionist. You have a fear of starting things, right? But if you have no problem starting things, but you can't seem to ever bring them across the finish line because they're never done, then you're a true perfectionist. So I'll let you diagnose yourself, anybody who's listening.
I'm not recovered yet.
Yeah. So the thing about perfectionism is perfectionism gets us into a place where we let perfect become the enemy of good enough. And the truth is that most things in life don't require your A game. Most things in life, we just need to move things from point A to point B and move it to the next phase. There are times in life where we really want to dig deep. But when we allow ourselves to fall into perfectionism, what we do, especially unhinged from our reality, meaning when you're really anchored in how much time you actually have, it's harder to give into perfectionism, right? When you really know, gosh, I could be a perfectionist. I could take 40 hours on this, but now I see the 100 things that are going to go off track if I do that. It's a form of what I call calendar accountability. And I know that sounds crazy. How can your calendar hold you accountable? When you're really in tune with your calendar and your priorities, and wow, if I go over my budgeted time on this, here's all of the things that are going to blow up on me. That holds you accountable to sticking to the timeline that you set out.
I love the calendar accountability. I want to talk to you about another one of your concepts that I really need myself. So what about guardrails for your day so that you don't go off track with your calendar? Yeah.
I mean, well, another dimension of calendar accountability is, I'll back up and say that there's different mindsets that you want to occupy throughout your day, right? There's not just one essential Lisa. I would say there's modalities or modes of Lisa, right? Yeah. So the mode you want to get in on Friday or on Saturday morning when you're pre-planning your week is what I call the general mode. The general is where you step away from the front lines. Stop worrying about, is this thing going to be done, or is this, you step way back, get the full expansive view and say, are we winning the war? Like, what sacrifices need to be made so that we can progress this campaign forward, right? And then the general goes in the tent, and Monday you get back into what I call soldier mode. Now, often what people are doing is conflating the two. They're either trying to be the general and the soldier at the same time. So there's a voice simultaneously running in their head, like, I got to do this thing, but also, is this the right thing that I should be doing? Like, should I be doing this other thing? Is this the most efficient? Right. So you almost got like a, multiple personality running at the same time, or there's too many voices talking in your head. So one of the things that's great about having a great plan in place is you get to let the general go back into the tent, engage fully in soldier mode, trust the plan. And when you have a plan laid out hour by hour, again, it lends you that what I call calendar accountability, those guardrails on your day, where I can actually go into my day and give myself the gift of not thinking too deeply about it. I know that sounds crazy, but really actually downshifting into a lower level of my brain where I can just get into execution mode and color into the lines that I've already drawn. And so those are great guardrails that you can put on your day. And a lot of people say, I don't want to fill up my calendar, Demir. Like, I don't want a full calendar. Then I don't have flexibility to deal with stuff. And I thought, I always offer to them, but isn't it nice to have the buried treasure map already drawn out for you, where all you have to do is follow the dotted line to success? Doesn't that feel good? And they say, oh yeah, actually that does feel like a good feeling.
I love that spin too on things so that we don't overwhelm ourselves, because I like to take the O word out of my vocabulary, but I know I tend to go there if I overcommit, and I really then feel guilty because I said I was going to do things that don't really fit in my calendar. And there's so much to unpack with all of your wisdom on planning, where the general is planning over the weekend. So like, you kind of really can't just go into your day without a plan if you haven't planned it out in the evenings or the weekends before, right?
Well, the problem that we've noticed with planning is that the funny thing is everybody says planning. I mean, you hear that word thrown around all the time, but when I've asked my clients, okay, what are your steps for planning? Everything gets very vague, very well. I sort of open my I sort of open my to-do list and then wave my hands at it a little bit. Then I open my calendar and wave my hands at it a little bit. And I just sort of hope that at the end, I've arrived at some level of clarity. And I ask them, well, did you, when you do this magical process that you do? No, it usually takes 2 or 3 hours and I'm more confused at the end. And I actually am more paralyzed and more fearful at the end. So the truth is we never really got taught in high school or college or in our first job or at any point, what does planning actually mean and how does one conduct that exactly down to the detail? And so this is what we hope we've done in this book, Winning the Week, is we have a very simple 5-step process for winning your week. I'll tell you in a second. It's that simple. I can tell you right now. Yeah. But we've laid out this 5-step process where you can plan your week in less than 30 minutes and know that you have a winning plan for the week, meaning knowing that you are going to win the next week. And the steps are simple. Step 0, remove the resistance that blocks everybody from planning. Step 1, learn something. Learn something every single week so that every single week becomes a compounding improvement cycle. Step 2 is don't just set a priority, find your leverage priority, meaning find that one place where you can put maximum leverage that's going to have the biggest impact for you. Step 2, check your calendar. Don't just check your calendar, interrogate your calendar. Wow. Really like a lawyer grilling a witness at the stand. You need to grill your calendar to really find out what you need to know from your calendar. Step 4, don't just look at your to-do list, triage your to-do list, right? You're actually going to have to make hard cuts, and that takes radical courage. And then finally, merge your calendar into your to-do list. This is called calendarization, where if you say you're going to get something done, it should have a designated time to do it. So with my clients, when you look at their calendar, now take a deep breath, because for a lot of people, this will induce a panic attack. When you look at my client's calendar, it is 100% full. 100%. Every single half an hour increment has been allocated. Now they also have what we call flex time blocks. So when I say 100%, I mean 100% they've got time to go on a date. 100% full because they've put in their gym time. 100% full because if they have a hobby, crocheting time is put in there. On my calendar, you even see a big block of time on Fridays where I like to sit down and listen to albums on the couch. So when I say full, I don't mean full of work. I mean full of everything, full of the good stuff, full of if you want to be a good dad, guess what? You got to make plans to take your kid out. If you want to have a great relationship, you need to make plans for date night. If you want to have a good body, you need to make plans to go to the gym. And guess what? It is not going to happen magically. You've been doing it for 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades in some cases. It is not going to accidentally happen that all of the good and obligatory stuff are going to happen in your calendar. So the final step is the most important one, which is allocate your precious time to its use. I'm just going to finish with this one final thought. It's very commonly understood in the personal finance world that you need to tell your money where it needs to go. You can't just hope that you're going to save a bunch of money or invest in stocks. You need to tell every cent, give every dollar a destination. Why would it be any different with your time?
It's love that. What a great wisdom bomb. Demir, where can people find more about you and becoming the master of planning?
Yeah. Go to winningtheweek.com. You can sign up to buy our book. The book's awesome because we've accompanied it with basically an entire course, an online course that accompanies the book. So if you buy the book, you'll also get the online e-course that's accompanied with it if you like to learn with videos and audio and stuff. There is, I don't know when people are going to be listening to this, but there's going to be an audiobook available as well on Audible. That's Winning the Week is the title of the book. And if you're impatient / don't like books, you can actually go to winningtheweek.com and we have an hour-long training that teaches you the whole thing.
That's for me. I am going to go to winningtheweek.com. Thank you for being such an amazing guest on Whole CEO with Lisa G. Demir Bentley.
Thank you so much, Lisa.